Welcome to Tommy Solo's Famous Friends. This is where I get to chat with people I've connected with over the years in the world of arts and entertainment. And today I'm happy to have with me from Tribz, Errol Starr and Earl Johnson. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hey, thanks, Tommy. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, glad to be back.
Yeah. So, so just so the viewers know, we're having some issues with Earl's video, but we're that's why you see his image and his lips aren't moving. But anyway, he's here with us,
You're
and
trying to do isn't that an AI thing? No.
we
You know,
well.
I and I put I
Listen,
put my teeth in for this video too.
yeah, yeah. Well, I was once told I had a face that was great for radio. But anyway, we're here to talk about tribes. But before we get into tribes, you both have some interesting and similar histories. I know that Errol, you started playing in your dad's band when you were still in high school, and Earl, you were with King Biscuit Boy when you were around the same age. So I guess we'll start with Earl, tell me about getting into King Biscuit Boy at such a young age.
Yeah, I know that one was kind of I've relived that a lot recently. Um, the and it was very interesting because I went from playing high school dances in typical gyms to being at a jam at a coffee house. And Doug Carter, who was a bass player in the band I was with at the time, I was around 17 and a half to 18. Doug was about 29 to 30. And he should have been playing with us, but we were making good money. We were playing two, three times a weekend. And I remember at the time, my mom told me that I had to start paying rent. Okay. And I went, really? She goes, yeah, your dad's laid off half the year. We need more money, right? Okay. So, and then she found my cash stash somehow in the top of my drawers. Okay. So, anyways, um, and then I planned a coffee house, and I remember doing a blues, BB King, Sweet Little Angel. And in the middle of my guitar solo, people started giving me a round of applause and all that, which people did in those days. Okay. And Errol, you probably remember that too. Okay. You know,
Absolutely.
it was very cool. It was very cool because you give you kind of goosebumps and all that. And Biscuit saw this and all that. And then that's when he hired me. And he just asked me if I was ready to go. And I said, well, where are we going? All over the States. I said, yeah, sounds good to me. Okay. I was determined to quit high school as early as possible, as early as possible. I was ready to quit in grade nine. Okay. you know, and then the funniest thing was, like a lot of us were back then, I was a totally unschooled musician. I had just learned how to play blues. And the first rehearsal we go to with Biscuit, he calls, what's the song? Further On Up the Road, right? They go further on up the road, come in from the five. And I'm looking in panic at Doug and going, what do you mean come in from the five? What the hell is he talking about? And, and, and Doug goes, the five. We're playing an A, E's the five. I go, okay, are there any other numbers I need to know about? He goes, yeah, four, three, two, and one. you know? And it was hilarious. But Biscuit held me on, and you know, so I mean, and it was amazing because we traveled the states all the way through the whole Kent State stuff, the riots of Kent States, and the whole Jack Nicholson Easy Rider stage and all that. So believe me, it was one hell of an education, in American culture at the time.
No doubt, yeah. So those were some interesting times to get started, that's for sure. And Errol, you had a similar story coming up. I understand that you learned how to play guitar really quickly, and was it that your dad saw you playing and invited you immediately to join? Tell me the story.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the thing was, my dad was a saxophone player, and he had his own band, and he decided he was going to get me a guitar. He got me a fantastic guitar. It was a Gibson Melody Maker, and a small Gibson amp. And at that point, those things were really amazing tools to use. And he started trying to teach me. And sometimes parents can be a little overzealous, trying to cram it into my face a bit. And I sort of backed off, right? But I was in sports, so I was like, okay, I'll deal with my soccer and hockey and do with that. And then maybe about 6 months after, I sort of picked it up. I bought a guitar book and started picking up the chords and started picking up little licks and things like that. And he heard me one day and he went, wow, we just lost our guitar player. Would you like to come and and try out. And I did that evening, and it was very cool because it was R&B, reggae vibe, Bob Marley, some Temptations and things like that, Al Green, real cool stuff. And I learned that stuff very, very quick. And I started playing in their band. And what was funny about it is that I had to go to the LCBO to get a letter so that I was able to play because I was underage, right? I was 14, just barely cresting 15. And I had to have a letter at these dates. And we were playing all over Southern Ontario in this band. It was, like I said, R&B slash reggae slash soul. I wasn't a singer at the time, just guitar. Yeah.
That sounds a lot like my story. This isn't all about me, but in my day, I had to have a special union permit to play in the bars. And I was a little bit older. I was 17. And the thing is, uh, you were supposed to leave the bar and go out in the lobby or go outside. I never did. And it was not a good thing because they served me alcohol because I was in the band. Right? So that that was started a bad precedent too. But I know that you guys had similar beginnings. And Errol, you had some pretty awesome success winning a Juno and all that. And I know you stepped away. And Earl, your biggest successes back in the day were with Moxie, and the music business tends to chew people up and spit them out. So I know this is kind of what happens to a lot of people. Um, Somewhere along the line, I know that you weren't really doing much, Errol, and with the original band that became Tribz, it was Long Black Cadillacs, and I know Earl, you had a really good singer, and that just didn't work out. So now you had this really good band, and before you had a really good singer, but through connections, mutual connections, you had Valerie Shearman, who I understand Errol
Correct.
knew through the record company. Now, Valerie recommended Errol to you, Earl.
Yeah, more than once. She kept saying, Errol lives in Ancaster. I said, hell, we rehearsed in Ancaster, and at the time. And I knew of Errol a bit from the old days, but I tell you, by 80, and there was a gap in there between like 78 and about 82. I wasn't involved in music much. And I was working in the audio business and consumed with that. And but I mean, and Val had worked with Earl on promotions, I guess, at A&M and all that. I knew that kind of from Val. And then yeah, I checked out some of his songs, and I must have sent you like some of our demos, right, Earl?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's at first. I didn't think I don't think he suspected that he'd be getting to hear what he heard. Okay, it was very,
Exactly it.
yeah, yeah,
I
very.
mean, and just to cut in, Val was on my heels about joining this band too. Like she was like, check out Earl's band. Yeah, look at that. They need a singer. They really need somebody. I said, okay, yeah. I was like, okay, 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 yeah. And finally, I heard the stuff and was like, yeah, they got something here.
And I should add too, I mentioned that Long Block Cadillacs had a really good singer. Well, now Tribes has a really great singer,
Yeah, yeah,
and there's
Thank
a
you.
difference. I mean, you can talk about levels of talent, right? But then there's passion, and there's sobriety, and there's the ability to really convey a message with conviction. And kudos to you, Errol. I mean, I watched the documentary, the Temple of Love, the Errol Starr story the other night,
Okay.
and your journey is something else. And through all of it, I see that conviction and the passion.
Yeah. Well, it was a trip, and I had to take a stand for my own spirit. And if I wanted to, live a long, successful life, I needed to make some changes. And spirit doesn't make any mistakes. It was one of those things where I was at a place where the road said either go there or go there. And that was death and this was life. And so it was pretty easy choice. So, yeah, I went that way, and I did like a little side move in the music industry where I'm not going to be on the stage. I'm not going to be doing this. I'll go over here I'll write music. I'll continue to be in the music industry in a way, but not in that way that is going to make me feel like I need to, be an idiot and use crap to sustain
Yeah.
myself.
You know, in um, from what Errol's saying as well, there was a tough decision because after you got to a certain level of success, and it's not, we all know it's kind of fleeting. We all know it can be pulled out from under you at any time. At the same time, though, you get used to it and you like playing on that level, and you're used to playing with players on that level and playing shows on that level. And it's a long way down, a long way down. And
Yeah.
then the next thing you know, you're playing bars. I mean, similar to what Errol said, I remember from I got I have two children, okay, but what happened was I remember around 19, I guess it was like 92, and I was playing with Rita Torelli at the time, and I left her band, and she was doing great, but what happened was I had a full-time job working with a company called Seren Vega as a national sales manager. I didn't want to lose that job, okay, and I couldn't go off during the day and rehearse and all that, and then basically I put my guitar down for like almost 12 years. I mean, didn't play it, literally, didn't play it. I had kids. I became a soccer coach, a hockey coach, full time bus driver, you name it, right? And I told you, a buddy of mine tells me, I couldn't believe how happy you were then. I said I was. I was happy as hell. I was living my second childhood. It was like I was playing tennis 4 times a week, playing hockey 3 times a week. I thought, hey, life's great, and it was. It really was, and but at the same time, it got to the point where at one point I just remember I was playing gigs and going, nobody really gives an F if you're here tonight. Okay, they're not here to really hear music. It got to that stage, and I think it was in the just around 91, 92. Where it got to that where like people really didn't give a shit, and that was like the pre-dawn of where we are right now, when nobody listens to a song for more than 30 seconds almost.
Mhm.
So it got to the point where it just didn't make any sense anymore.
I think all three of us kind of share that. Like I was full on, full time
Yep.
for I think the first 10 years of my adult life. And then I had to step away. And I know that I got to enjoy some things from life that a lot of musicians don't. And Errol, you had the same situation, right? I watched on the video, the end of the video, there you are with a backyard that looks like full of kids and your guitar and you're doing the hokey pokey.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, when that whole thing went down, I completely changed and went into a place where I could still play music, but still it was on my own terms. Um, uh, I became part of a church, and I was the musical director of a church in Hamilton called Unity. We do youth groups and youth organized things that I would play at, and I would get people to play. So yeah, it was a completely different life, but I, again, kept my toe in the music somehow. I have a company called Spa Music Stream that we write music for massage therapists and energy healers, and music is a different tuning and things like that. So I'm always in the music somewhere, as well as I was writing for radio and television broadcast. So for years, I was with a company called MJM Media here in Hamilton that we did all the jingles coming out, even the one that you probably know of, 967-1111. That was attributed to MJM Media, who created that. I was the head engineer and associate writer at that company, and that's where it was just my little place in the corner over here where I could continue working music and playing music and then enjoying a family life.
And I think all of these experiences that, once you step away from the pavement, if you will, and the traffic of that full-time music business, and you step away and you get to enjoy time with your family and doing other things, I think that gives us a much better perspective when you decide you want to go full on again. And speaking of going full on again, Tribz is an amazing band. I mean, kudos to you guys. I see that everybody is equally as passionate and the talent is at a level that's really unparalleled. I know that recently you guys were the Day of Peace ambassadors for the Peace Institute, and and that was featuring "Save the World," which is your latest single from the self-titled album Tribz.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, correct,
yeah.
correct. Yeah. We were fortunately got in touch with Peak Institute, who's a peace initiative, and they're one of the companies around the world that is trying to bring more peace into people's awareness. And to do that, they set up this live peace tour of concerts from around the world, and every band that wanted to be on it could get involved, and we got involved, and we were broadcast to, I think it's like 3 million people around the world.
Very nice.
Yeah,
I think we should take a minute here and give people a sample, give people a preview of "Save the World." What do you think, guys?
sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, let's hear
Okay,
it.
let's do that.
Yep.
Now, Father, Father, the time has come to make demands. Take a stand and make a plan to save the world. Yeah. Let's save our world for the children. Yeah. Save the world. Well, let's save our world for the children. Yeah, yeah.
Well, that is really something, man. The production and the audio, especially. I'm so happy for you guys. And all good things come to people who put in the time and the effort. And you guys have put in the time and the effort. And the struggle is real, but you're climbing that ladder. And I know you recently signed another record deal.
Well,
Um,
we did and we didn't. Okay, but
Okay.
but we probably don't want to really get into a whole lot of discussion about that. There's a
Okay.
whole new generation of so-called record people, record companies, and I think the biggest thing out of it, after all the record, and Earl know this better, after all the record companies basically dissolved, a lot of people got put out of work who basically that was their life earnings. So they now have to hustle and come up with different concepts to throw at you and all this. It's a maze game out there. It's a total maze game right now, and that's been the biggest thing we've had to deal with. And we're not going to say anything bad about anybody. But the thing
yeah,
is,
yeah.
everybody has had to change their approach to everything.
And the whole industry has changed so drastically with all, the new technologies that have come in, and new way of doing things. And yeah, again, us, we're a little bit older, a little more seasoned, and maybe some of the agents and agencies and things like that don't look at us as being viable. But we got a lot to draw on our talent anyway, so a lot of resources to draw on. And when we bring it to the stage, full on. So
Yeah, and I've seen some of those performances on video, and you're right. The industry has drastically changed, and I know that for myself, I've stopped worrying about the business part of it so much, and I'm more focused on personally, I'm making my music for the love of the music and for those who love the music. And I think that's something that I think the three of us kind of share that.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's one thing I want to mention, Tommy, is that basically Tribz was born out of the COVID thing. We all got shut down. And the drummer, Dave Davidson, we've been lifelong friends going back like 45 years. And, it was funny because I remember I was living in Toronto at the time. They shut my business down. I remember my mother and sister said, well, why don't you just come back home for a year? It looks like we'll be shut down for a while, right? So I did. And me and Dave got together. And one day Dave goes, well, why don't we try doing some music? Because we were playing tennis all the time, okay? And so we started, and we called Donnie and brought Donnie in. And then Donnie, I didn't know what to make of Donnie at first. I mean, he's just a rare human being, okay? I was like, is this guy real? I don't, anyway. but he's a great guy. He's a great guy. So anyways, I had this one song. I already had True Love, but I had this one song idea kicking around like more of a blues thing, which turned into Long Black Cadillac. So Donnie says, I got some lyrics for it. I got some lyrics for it. Okay. So he comes in the next practice with some lyrics. And I look at him and go, Donnie, this song kind of needs something a little like really dirty and slutty. Don't write them in front of your wife, okay? Don't write them in front of your wife. Don't tell her what you're doing, right? And that's kind of how we got that tune done. But in retrospect, honestly, this album would not have got finished if it wasn't for Errol. And I'm not giving him too much credit, by the way, either, because he put countless hours into recording at his place, mixing. And after we had done the 4 songs with Long Black Cadillacs, we decided to change the name to Tribz. That's a whole other story. But the thing is, we did another 6 songs. We did another 6 songs, and that's what made up the bulk of the album. It's got us to the album level,
Mhm.
So first, I want to just mention Donnie is the bass player, and I know
Yeah.
Donnie is an excellent bassist. I am interested in the story of Tribz, okay, and I have a pretty good idea, general idea of how it came to be. Maybe Errol, give me your take on that.
Sure. Well, I mean, I think it was you, Earl, that brought the name Tribz to the band. But, at the time we were all like, well, we're all indigenous, right? We're all here. Donnie's from Six Nations. Earl, you're
Tuscarora.
Tuscarora tribe. And I was adopted into Métis tribe. And that's my indigenous name right there, Star Turtle. And so we were looking at each other like, we're all from different tribes. We're all here in one group, being, cooperative, making things work. This is a United Nations thing right here. This is the way it should be, right? The whole world should be one tribe. That's the way we see things. So, and it just was something that we thought that everybody would agree on, that we are tribes. Everybody's a part of it. So the band name Tribz was apropos for it.
Absolutely. And I really applaud you guys for coming together like a United Nations, and pooling your ideas and your resources. And there isn't a weak member in the band, and like I mentioned before that Long Black Cadillacs had a really good singer. Now Tribz has a really great singer. And Earl, I mean, I have to say, man, the guitar playing in the song Save the World, I'm reminded of Paganini, and that sort of thing. It's blues. A lot of people play the blues, just with the whole diatonic, scale thing. And it's very limited. And some people are really passionate, like, don't get me wrong, B.B. King could do more with one note than I could do with 100, That said, you are a one of a kind guitar player in the environment that you're in. There's so many guitar players who don't understand what you do. And I know your day job is teaching guitar and you're super qualified. How did you come up with the solo idea in that song?
Well, the interesting thing was, and it's funny because we're probably on our 8th song when Save the World, and I'm sitting around. I had the chord changes, the dun, 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 the descending chord changes and all that. I kept kicking around with it, and then one night after teaching, it came to me, right? And then I started, and then Errol said to me, "Okay, get me a clip." So I got a clip on audio to him, right? And we got going from there. I'd already written most of the lyrics, etc. But the thing was, the guitar solo was based on teaching a lot. Like when you play like an A minor. I teach guys now play an A minor triad to go into the solo. Then it went to F. It went to an F triad. Then it went to C. We went to a C triad. And then it went back to A minor, which is back into, or to G and back into it. But that crazy hook on the end was something I just kept fooling around with, trying to find somewhere to put it, right? And I remember when we did the video, they cut me off in the back of that part, said, "Come on, Errol, that's the best part in the video," But it was the benefit. That was the benefit of being a guitar teacher and having to learn. But, you got to be open to learning as well, and keep your mind open and to keep learning.
And I really hope that everyone has an open mind and is willing to open their arms to tribes. I know you guys want to save the world. And I wish you guys nothing but the best of luck with this project. And I don't want to take up your whole time, but I'm so glad we got to talk about this today. You can pick up Tribz wherever you can get your music, right? And Save the World. The video is on YouTube.
Yeah.
Yep.
Check out the Errol Starr documentary on YouTube, the Temple of Love Errol Starr story, and for anybody who is living in the Ajax area and wants to learn how to play guitar, you couldn't pick a better teacher than Earl. Guys, I want to
Absolutely.
thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this with me. And until next time, cheers.
Cheers, Tommy.
Thank you, Tom.
Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a one-man production, meaning that I've done all the work, including recording, editing, guest acquisition, etc. Don't forget to look for the accompanying articles based on these interviews at 519magazine.com. The theme song for Tommy Solo's Famous Friends is a clip from my original composition, The Burn, all rights reserved. If you enjoy the show and you'd like to help us keep it going, why don't you click on the Buy Me a Coffee link in the show notes. Hit the like button, subscribe, all that stuff. We really appreciate it. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. And until next time, cheers.